supposed to be about the struggles of fat people and such?
I watched it. It was The Whale. And let me tell you why. I wanted to cry in a few moments. It's actually so sad. The entire movie is shot from his living room.
No, it's supposed to be a whole perspective. But there's also lots of funny stuff in it that they're trying to not make funny.
Oh, yeah. They were blaming religion for killing his boyfriend. He was doing stuff like talking about his boyfriend to the, whatever you call the door-to-door religious salesman. I don't know if they're Latter-day Saints or what the church is supposed to be. They're like, your religion killed my boyfriend. He felt guilt over being a sinner and he killed himself. And my ex-wife and my daughter hate me. Poor me. Then he ate himself to death on purpose.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, I still got some. But definitely use some more.
I just didn't see any in your rack, so I was making sure you drank clean.
Yeah. No, I watched that Nicolas Cage movie you were talking about. I mean, I like Nicolas Cage in the sense that he can get away with it. Even in this movie,
Nicolas Cage.
he's continuing to play Nicolas Cage. He's done it for so many years.
And they finally made a movie about it.
It's like, oh yeah, we love this movie you did, this movie you did, and it's like, I love the diversity in the acting in this one. It's like a slightly different Nicolas Cage face off. I mean, he keeps making money. I don't know what else to say. He keeps getting movies.
It's because people like his character.
Yeah.
He probably could do other stuff, but why would he try?
Yeah, exactly. What the? What's going on with this? I'll tell you who my favorite actor in the modern world is right now. The Mandalorian.
Oh, I don't know which one that is.
It's the guy that plays the Mandalorian. He's in that Nicolas Cage movie. He's like the other main character.
Bobby?
Yes. I love that. I'm sure he was already a big actor or something, but that Mandalorian thing put him in so many movies.
Oh no, he was pretty much a nobody before.
I'm sure it's the classic Disney play where it's like, yeah, he didn't make much money at Disney, but it opened up his career for other stuff because, hey, you were in a Disney thing. Netflix is up to, but I heard Netflix verse, and I instantly thought about
The metaverse.
metaverse, and I'm like, hasn't that cost Zuck's billions of dollars? Like, insane billions of dollars. And now Netflix, which has been hemorrhaging money forever, is trying to crack into that market. Like, what are they gonna do? I don't know. They couldn't even make a mobile game. Did you see their mobile games? They couldn't even kick out a decent mobile game, and now they want to get rid of that.
I kind of want a lighter, less intense version of the VR, like something that doesn't play games. Because like the Netflix app inside of the VR stuff is pretty great.
Some of the VR stuff I did like is when they film it all in VR, so you can like walk around the room of stuff that's happening while it plays.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool, I guess.
No,
See more
they
stuff?
have the YouTube app too, which lets you do that because some of people have videos like that. But I don't know, the Netflix theater thing is pretty great.
I do like the VR theater. At 50 pounds, they're not that heavy. But if you're trying to move them all into the room in one stretch, I could see how if you were by yourself, that would be super annoying. I'm glad that we got a tractor to stick them in the shop and stuff.
Yeah.
I know I've told Mom a few times that I have a new number. I think she's still trying to get a hold of my old phone. I think what she did is that thing where you add somebody to contacts, and it still goes to your old number first.
Yeah, I just have both of your numbers under the same name.
Well, I told her to create another deal. Let's create a separate deal, just make a whole new contact. She's tech savvy, more so than I am.
Yeah, but she knows how to use a computer. Not at home.
Oh, well, that's probably true.
Especially because I think you just switched to an iPhone like earlier this year.
As opposed to what? A BlackBerry?
No, Android, like Samsung.
That's what I'm saying. They're all the same.
No.
The only difference is Apple makes you vary their products. So you have to have Apple TV, Apple Watch, AirPods, the Apple shoes.
No, it's awful to use if you've been using an Android.
Yeah, there's a reason why. I looked at the different phones when I was going to get my new one. I'm glad I stayed with my Samsung. It's easy. Everything's just linked to it. Oh, you want there to be a simple, easy app, like when you go from Android to Android, to link all of your stuff and all your photos and everything? Ooh, well, sorry. What you can do
Just buy a new phone.
is just get an Apple Genius. Every video I've watched on people doing this, they have like a clear, emptied out space. I've never watched them moving furniture and stuff like that and clearing everything out.
Yeah.
Working around weird pipes and tight corners.
Well, the pipes and corners are normal. But I'd imagine most of the time, if you were a normal contractor, you'd say, hey, I'm not doing this floor unless you get your stuff out of here.
Yeah. Oh, you want us to move all the things out of the room for you? Oh, okay. You know how original quote was for $8 a square foot? Yeah, now it's 12. do like that you get like crazy different colors though. That is one thing I do like about this floor. It doesn't look like regular old school.
It probably makes it easier for you to just grab a box and put it down instead of matching.
Oh yeah. And I know this is sandable to an extent.
Well, yeah, when I was looking, it said every 3 years you're supposed to come through and redo it, touch it up. And it's like
I bet
3
this,
millimeters of thickness on top.
yeah, it's like a 1/4 inch or something. But I'd imagine if you ever tried to stain, it would look so horrible with all the lines.
Oh no, you couldn't stain it.
You could never stain this and do that kind of touch. Oh. No, Lamar did have me freaked out, and he's like, oh no, you have to have the wood in the house for like 3 weeks. You have to let it acclimate. Well, good news, bad news.
Wow.
Good news is, this stuff's so expensive, we probably don't have to do it at that other house. The bad news is, he was talking about doing the tile
Yeah.
that looks like wood floor.
No, I would much rather do this stuff.
Yeah, I think I'd rather do this than a fake tile. I hate. Oh god, dude. That would be an insane amount of work.
Yes.
Oh.
Especially because the walls aren't even.
You realize that basically each of those rooms over there was 300 square foot. We did 600 square foot of tile in there. And I'm pretty sure it would be way more than that for that other house.
Yeah. The bedroom on its own is about 15 by 23, 24.
Oh my god, yeah. if I didn't know what we were doing, I'd actually be happy to go doing fence next week. Except I know what we're doing. So it's gonna suck. Here's a little bit of this room. And we just added molding instead of removing this one because it was all siliconed on. And I know that the height would get raised a little bit, but we had trouble with the multiple levels of paint and everything and getting it off there without peeling up the wall, even being careful. So we're definitely adding molding. And one of the tricks for doing your casing is you get yourself a scrap piece. And because we are using an underlayment mostly for the squeaking and stuff in the future, you put a piece of paper or a piece of your underlayment and granted, I got the metal blade for removing nails and stuff right now on it, but you get yourself a nice wide wood one. And then you come in and just blast this, and it puts you at the exact height that you need it when you're done. And these things aren't crazy heavy, but they're like 50 pounds. These boards are all uniform. They're all the same length, width, that stuff. And I know they have you go 10% over for waste materials and everything, because you know what's going to happen. And so far that has worked out. We haven't had too much to waste, to be honest. Yeah, something I do recommend though is that when you're getting ready to do your first bit, measure from wall to wall where you're going to land, and definitely calculate and figure out how long this final piece is going to be, because you do not want to have, you know, like a 1-inch strip going against the wall just because it's a pain. So yeah, definitely calculate for that, because if you're going to end up having to split the board in half over here or something, it's a lot better to do that than have a tiny little piece over here at the end. As you guys can see, it's tedious, but it moves along quick enough for a smaller room like this. When you have cuts like this, it's not too bad. Originally, we were trying to save our pieces and be real finicky about this, but the reality is we're just gonna put some of those covers over the holes, especially because most of the house has weird stuff like this for the other flooring anyways, and they just put covers, so we're just gonna match it. But this flooring ended up being like 11 bucks a square foot, which we're having to do roughly 900 square foot of flooring here between this and the other two rooms. So, you know, 11 grand basically ended up being what it was, plus your 8% tax. So it's not cheap, but I would say the difficulty level, not too bad actually. Your hardest part is going to be when you hit this wall. This is the hardest part. It's not even making the corners and all this stuff. It's more that you're now using your 15 gauge, and you'll discover that this angle one is gonna stop you like wherever it lands. So you might have to do 3 levels where you're sitting there angling, toenailing it in, which doable, but you'll discover the same problem up over it quickly becomes a pain depending on where your board lands. So if you're roughly having half your board land there, now you're at this problem. And no matter what you do, you can't quite get it in there right. So that's something else to measure out for, because at least if you're landing with one board there, it gives you just enough room with here you can hit. This, you're in the zone. But if you split the board in half, so yeah, tough choices, stuff to think about. We measured it where basically we're gonna have almost a whole board up against our wall to give us room for that. We just happened to get lucky when we did our other one. Yeah, there's definitely gonna be weird stuff. The most important thing is getting this first run laid down and getting it super straight. And you're gonna need spacers or something to shim off this wall, because you'll discover even when you nail it up against the wall like this, even if you're hitting it as soft as you can with that thing, your boards tend to move. And if this first row moves at all, it's gonna suck. There's like no wiggle room for correcting. And as you can see, you're gonna want your line pretty tight. And I know it kind of looks like there's gaps, but the reality is, it's got kind of a rounded edge, and you're pushed all the way up against it the best you can. But this is going to be the one board and a prime example of why it's a pain if you get off on your first run, because you do not want to be correcting and doing stuff. It looks like a lot when you get up close, but the reality is when you stand back, you actually can't even see that gap. But the rest of it, I mean, this is what you're looking at. Even over here, you would say, wow, there's a little bit of a gap there. Yeah, visually it kind of looks like it. The reality is, this thing is smacked up as tight as you can be. And some of this stuff, hey, it's gonna look really good. But yeah, as a rule of thumb, they're saying give yourself an 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch for wiggle room. Luckily our line was very tedious. We spent like forever getting it super close. So as we lined up our boards, this is why our lines came out pretty straight. Even our gap against the wall is exactly a 1/4 inch. And we just, you know, keep buttoning them up super level as we go. And this is the result of getting your first run super straight. And you're measuring off of both walls, trying to figure out, because I would just tell you right now, I've never seen a straight wall to wall in my life. That's just construction. That's just the way stuff is built. This landing over here, these two walls ended up being a 1/4 inch wider than up over here. Same thing over here. A little bit of an angle, but we calculated for that. You just got to do some maths, do some thinking. It takes more planning than anything, because once you get to this point where this second row is installed, I mean, you see that you can just go. And all we're doing here is I'm just using a hole saw and a jigsaw and we're cutting them out here. And I know some of you are thinking, hey, why didn't you sweep up the floor and get it all cleaned up before you started doing all this install so you didn't have to fight this stuff? We did. We definitely did. And yeah, unless you're gonna sit there with a shop vac and be very tedious about it, for me, it was easier to just continue to sweep even more as we went along. But yeah, yeah, we're just using a regular compound miter saw, job site table saw. The amount of tools needed, not too crazy. That thing, a bit unnecessary, but it just happens to be what we got, so we use it. It's a lot more annoying and a lot louder than just having a traditional air compressor, but the regular ones we got are pretty big and they basically just live in the shops. They're not very mobile, and the places we go a lot of time don't even have power, so yeah, we're running with the gas one. It takes like a gallon of fuel a day to run it, so I'm not going to complain too much. It's just a noise deal. But yeah, other than that, there's really not a whole lot of tools. You know, you just get one of these for pulling it off of your wall when you get to the end. You know, 15 gauge. That oscillator, I would say, is definitely a lifesaver for many situations anyways. We went ahead and did 2-inch nails. This flooring would not be ideal to nail to. However, this is 1/4 inch and underneath it is 1-inch plywood. Like, it's in great shape. And because this stuff's only like, I don't even know, I think it was 1/2 inch thick. Yeah, this is a 1/2 inch thick deal. We got 2-inch nails. Yeah, we are getting way down into a good substrate for holding all this together. Because if this was your main deal, you do not want to jack with this. You would just shoot this up, which is a pain and cost you even more money, and then you'd want to put down plywood. But this is something they had put over the floor to raise it slightly, to put it to this, because they had carpet in here and it just lined up perfect by adding that 1/2 inch to line up with their existing flooring. And of course, yeah, we could have pulled it all out, but there's nothing underneath that plywood in the other room. Like, the plywood is the subfloor going right on top of the joist. And anytime you think like, wow, those were some pretty big gaps and stuff, yeah, now you get into this type of stuff. These are big gaps, which is basically throughout the whole house. And this is like not even that bad. Some of these places have like really big gaps, but it's part of the groove in the floor too. But you're definitely having stuff like this. So yeah, I guess when you compare it to mine and my gaps and my stuff, at least I didn't end up with stuff like this. So that's something to be wary of. If an installer sounds too cheap, it's probably because he is, and you're going to have like just serious gaps in your floor, which will continue to get worse over time because most people don't know how to take care of stuff like this. They're just using a regular mop, regular water, and all of it gets into all these cracks everywhere. I mean, like I said, this stuff is just all throughout the house for this stuff. So yeah, if you have the patience and just do it right, that flooring goes in easy enough. I mean, good old carpet is quick, cheap, and installers are a dime a dozen. Just be careful when you're doing your wood flooring. It's something you can do by yourself. Just take your time. Understand that, you know, a room that's like 15 by 15 might take you a couple days, but it's way better to just take your time on that than to have big gaps, mistakes. And like I said, the biggest part is just sit there, measure, plan, grab your tools and see how stuff's gonna line up for you, and decide what do you want to struggle with. And of course there's stuff like this in this room. Yeah, they had significant water damage, and because I live in a remote location, they don't actually have any of this in stock. What we had to do for that other room that had water damage was, after we fixed everything and replaced all the crap, fixed the subflooring, we ended up just doubling up our paper and putting 2 layers of paper and then our 7/16 OSB, and it brought it up exactly flush. Now mind you, I think it's the 15 pound that we went with for our underlayment, so it's gonna matter if you get the heavier, thicker. I don't know what the other weight is, I don't remember. But yeah, no, you don't have to be a genius and you don't have to be a contractor to do this stuff. It's totally doable. If you're into doing your own projects, this is within the realm of reason. And I would say, yeah, if they're charging you $9 a square foot for the install, I mean, you're looking at another $9 grand on top of the 11. But hey, if you can afford 11 grand for the material, we would assume that you can shell out the other 10 for the install. However, if you're like me, yeah, for 2 days work, I would much rather, well, 2 days my foot, we're doing almost 900 square foot is what we're doing. So for me, a week, I will gladly pay myself $9,000 for a week's worth of work instead of somebody else. That's just something to keep in mind. But hey, if you're bad and bougie, you got the money, you don't care, yeah, save yourself a lot of heartache. Just make sure you find somebody that knows what they're doing, so you don't end up with that old floor over there with giant gaps where you're very unhappy. So, all right, well, hey, thanks for watching. Hope this helped you guys out. Gives you an idea of the reality of it. Most of the videos I've seen on this are like 5-minute clips and stuff, and you go, oh wow, this is super quick and easy. Oh, neato. The reality is very tedious. You see, it sucks the whole time you're bent over, hunched over. Anytime you're hunched over like that, it sucks. And no, you can't work off your knees, can't sit in a chair. You were just hunched over the whole time. So yeah, be ready for that. All right, later.